Hello, Steve White, Trek Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, the whole Paramount for sale thing is getting more complicated, and I did a video the other day opining the fact that basically it looked like Skydance had won. Bob Bakish had been fired. He was the big Star Trek man who wanted to make Star Trek, into basically successful, and to change things and shake things up. And he was for getting rid of Kurtzman and bringing Star Trek back in-house. And it was sounding good, but then, they fired him. They looked like they were going with Skydance, and the reason for that is because Sherry Radstone, who owns, the controlling stock in the company, the A-grade stock, just wants a buyout so she can leave. But the problem is, this company Apollo came in, which is Brian Allen's company, who's a black man. And some people are making a big deal about the fact he's black and he'd be the first black man to own a studio. I'm like, Tyler Perry, anyone? He owns his own studio. Oprah owned Harpo Studios for a million years. Like, whatever. But why not? He seems like a nice guy. He started off in comedy. He's worked in a lot of areas. He's worked his way up. He seems like a fighter. He's really gone from... He's going to have a great telly movie one day, telling his whole life, especially if he ends up with Paramount. But... he apparently came in with the money, and then Sony backed him because Sherry didn't want the company broken up, I think for legacy, but that's where I'm getting confused, because Sony came in to support him and back him up, and Sony, because they're a Japanese company, can't own CBS, so they'd have to do something there, and there had to be some sort of fragmentation or some way to do it where they wouldn't directly own it, or they were selling it, I don't know. But she didn't want to have anything to do with that. She really was just concerned with having herself bought out, because that would benefit her. But I don't know if she didn't think of this or consider this, or apparently all the other stockholders, the shareholders, the B-class shareholders, all the other people, the regular people, I guess, were not happy with her, because obviously if they buy out the whole company, it's a $26 billion buyout versus a $6 billion stock buy. They would all get paid out. They would all get money. They'd all get rich. And they could all walk away, and then Paramount would be a private company, and they'd actually be able to make their own... They'd be in control again, and they'd be able to do whatever they want. And it could be really good for the company to shake it up, change it, and work without this committee telling them what to do. And that's the problem with when we go public with a company and it gets bought by people. They all have a say, and then you have so many cooks in the kitchen that nothing can really be done. It's really not conducive for artistic projects and for studios to work that way. So I think it would really benefit. I think everyone would benefit. Sherry get bought out, all the other people would get bought out, the company would be private, they could shake things up, change things around, do what they want, without having to worry about a committee telling them what they can and can't do, and having to always please the shareholders. And that's the thing. Sherry's supposed to be thinking about what's good for the company, what's good for the shareholders. She's supposed to be wanting to do what's best for them and make them rich. And she's just thinking about what's going to make her rich, and I guess maintain her father's legacy. But, Skydance could just as easily vote for breaking up the company. Like, she has no control over what they do after she leaves, so there's no real guarantee. At least with Sony, you know what they're going to do. Maybe she can manage it a bit, I don't know. But this is interesting. I thought it was done when I heard that Bob Bakish was gone, and the implication was they'd gotten rid of him because of his position on Star Trek, where we want to go with that, and some of the other elements that he wasn't happy with. I thought that was it. We're done. We're not going to have any change. We're just going to have different people controlling the same company that's going to continue on with Kurtzman Trek that they're contracted with and happy with, because they have no idea. Because it's so bizarre. They spent all this money trying to build a new audience for Star Trek, and all they did was alienate the original audience. That wasn't huge. It wasn't the general public, but it was intelligent, well-educated, professional people, usually intellectuals, who spent a lot of money on merchandise and made up for the fact there wasn't a lot of them by spending a lot of money and being really loyal and committed for their whole lives. Instead of the general public, which is bigger, but is really just there for one movie or the moment, because whatever the marketing is pushing them towards, they just watch that week. That's just sort of how the general population is, and they've never really embraced Star Trek. It's always been a niche thing, a genre thing. and they just didn't respect that. They threw it away, and it didn't really get replaced with anything because the whole general audience didn't come. They spent all this money, they built it, and nobody came. They spent all this money on the films and the TV series, the new Trek series and films, and they didn't really bring in new people. And they spent a lot of money, and they lost it. They didn't get anything back. The original Star Trek is still doing well, but the new Trek stuff, they didn't pick up this new audience they thought they were going to pick up. So maybe if they shake that up and go back to what made Star Trek work and bring back the old fan base, that will always attract new people, because the same sort of people that are attracted to it, they're still being born and growing up, and they're going to, find Star Trek, but they're still not the general public. They can't just market to them and, just have this, easy sort of sale. It's just never going to go that way. So I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm a bit more optimistic that, the Sony bid is still a possibility, but we'll see.